in this demo, we're going to briefly go over enabling Microsoft Defender for Cloud for an Azure database from MySQL Flexible Server, disabling Defender on the Flexible Server, as well as reviewing a proposed security recommendation and mitigation steps, and configuring an email alert. So to get started, I've already navigated to my Flexible Server in the Azure portal. If I go down on the left menu pane to the security options, I'll see Microsoft Defender for Cloud listed. Selecting it, it opens to the main view where I can see that the enablement status is currently set to disabled. To enable Defender on this flexible server, all I need to do is select the Enable button. The enablement process will kick off, and in about 1 minute, the change should take effect. So I got my notification that enabling Defender has completed successfully. And I can see here in the main view that the enablement status has been updated from disabled to enabled at the subscription level. To disable Defender on this flexible server, I can just select the configure option that's located by the enablement status. It's going to open the server settings page for Defender where I have the option to select on or off. So I'm going to select off to disable Defender on this server and then select save to apply my setting. So now Defender has been successfully disabled on my flexible server. And if I navigate back to the main view, I'll see that the enablement status has been updated again back to disabled. Now I'm going to navigate to another flexible server that I have in my subscription that has had Defender turned on for a while. And so the advanced threat protection feature has had some time to monitor this database and find a security recommendation. So here I see that there's one recommendation already listed. And for the description, it reads that Azure MySQL Flexible Server should have Azure Active Directory only authentication enabled. If I select it, it's going to open to the main view that gives me a few more details about this particular vulnerability. Again, I'll see that the severity is listed as a medium. It's on a refreshness interval of about 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes, advanced threat protection is checking for the status of this vulnerability. And the associated MITRE attack technique is listed as initial access. I have a few more details here listed under description, which shows that disabling local authentication would essentially allow Azure Active Directory only authentication to improve the security of my flexible server by ensuring that the flexible server can only be accessed by Azure Active Directory identities. Selecting the remediation steps, I see that there are manual instructions listed for how I can go about applying a mitigation to remediate this particular vulnerability, which includes navigating to authentication on the flexible server, assigning the access to be AAD only, applying an identity, as well as assigning an Azure AD admin. So going down to the available actions that I can take, I can select take action to go remediate this vulnerability right away, or I could also assign an owner. If I select assign an owner, here I'll have the option to set an owner to address this particular vulnerability. And then for the email address, I'm going to select myself. For the due date, instead of the 22nd, I'll select the 15th, and I'll choose to notify the owner weekly. And then I'll create my assignment that's going to trigger an email alert that will be sent to me. Okay, so my assignment has been created successfully. Alternatively, I can choose to take action right now. Selecting the take action option, it's going to navigate me back to my main view with the security drop down where I can go to the authentication setting. So here we see that MySQL authentication only is currently selected as the access option. Essentially, this means local authentication. I can choose to update it to Microsoft Entra authentication only, or formerly known as Azure Active Directory only authentication. I see that there's already a user assigned manage identity filled in. I'm going to select this one. This is my identity. And then for the Entra admin, I'll choose to set an admin who I'm just going to make the admin myself. So now I've updated all my settings to Microsoft Entra authentication only. I have a user assigned manage identity already selected, and I've selected myself as the Microsoft Entra admin. So now I'm just going to hit save on my settings. Okay. So I've successfully updated my authentication settings. If I were to navigate back to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud on my flexible server, I'll see that the recommendation is still there because, as we reviewed before, the refresh interval is set to 30 minutes. And so within the next 30 minutes, if the advanced threat protection feature was to monitor and scan my database again, it would see that my authentication setting has been updated from local auth to Microsoft Entra, or formerly Azure Active Directory only authentication enabled. And that concludes my demo for enabling, disabling, and configuring security alerts for Microsoft Defender for Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server. Thank you.